What is merchandise planning? And I think this is really the burning question. It's something I get asked often, and I'm not sure that there is a quick and easy answer for it. So I'm going to actually try and tackle this topic from a few different angles, because I think it's really important for us to just set an understanding of what is merchandise planning. We often hear planning referred to as the right product at the right place at the right time. I think we're all quite familiar with that little phrase. I suppose I would challenge that a little bit from the point of view of, I think those are the results of great planning, and not just planning. Those are the results of the whole retail ecosystem functioning well and doing their jobs well. And so I think it's important to focus in on what are the right. But yeah, just focusing on that end game of right product, right place, right time isn't enough to make planning work. And it doesn't unpack what the activities and the thinking is behind planning. I came up with a definition after a very, very long time that planning exists to maximize sales and profit through optimizing stock. So that's probably become my catch cry or my definition for planning. And I think if we keep that front and center, then we really do understand what planning is striving to achieve, and all the activities are really just with that in mind. If we clear our minds and strip this back to reframe planning, then maybe we'll consider it through a different perspective. So I'll start off by saying, contrary to maybe popular belief or what people might have encountered before, planning, when it's done well, should not be rigid. It should be commercial. It should not simply be an extension of finance, and I don't mean that in a way to finance, but I do think it's important to understand that planning is a distinct function or discipline from finance. There's a very close relationship, and there are inputs and outputs that flow both ways, but it's more than an extension of finance. I also like to remind people that planners are not necessarily perfectionists. There's absolutely precision required to do planning well and attention to detail, but perfectionism is not actually what we're striving for and is not going to serve a business well. Planning should not be overly controlling. It should be dynamic, as a retail environment is dynamic. And I think also when people try to define planning, they often talk about planning relying a lot on the past, that it's about looking in the rearview mirror. And I think it's important to understand that equally planning, if not more, planning is about the future, informed by the past, but equally informed by where the business is going and trends and direction and performance, and very much about where are we going next and laying a good path for that. So really, planning, yes, brings a measure of objectivity, and I think people are quick to identify that, but not at the price of commercial outcomes. An analogy that I wanted to refer to, because I think it will help people kind of relax into what planning is really about. And if you think about Google Maps, we all, I think, by now are very accustomed to hopping in the car and popping on Google Maps and letting that tell us how we're going to get from A to B and the best way for us to get from A to B. And along the route, we expect Google Maps to recalibrate and to anticipate what is on the path ahead of us and to course correct accordingly, because we still want to get there the quickest way, or the way that avoids tolls, or whichever it might be for our purposes. And I think we've reached the point almost that we couldn't get from A to B without Google Maps, and we would be very, very frustrated if it wasn't being that responsive and that dynamic to our needs. And in many respects, that is just what planning is, particularly the early stages of planning, which is the merchandise financial plan. It's just setting a path for where we want to get to. And then as the business is trading and as we get newer information, so we're course correcting that and being responsive to the business. And I think if you think of it through that lens, it maybe will help people just be a little bit more comfortable with what it actually is. In retail, our stock investment is that single biggest investment that we make. And it actually, if you think about it in simple terms, it would be quite irresponsible to do that without a clear plan. And you wouldn't build a house without a plan. You just know that you're going to land up burning money along the way and making decisions at the wrong time and perhaps being inefficient. In the course of building a house, it's not to say that once you get to the second floor that you don't decide to put a window where there wasn't one originally in the plan, because now that you're up there, you can see what an amazing view it would be. And that's okay, you can still put the window in. We have to be grown-ups about it and acknowledge that maybe it's going to cost a little bit more, but we can evaluate that and decide it's worth it, because when we live there for the next 20 years and we're enjoying that view, that extra cost is going to be fine, but at least we made an informed decision. And that's really how planning operates.